Good morning and welcome to Motivational Mornings, the podcast that gets you going before you get going.
Good morning and welcome to Motivational Mornings. My name is Ryan and I'm here today with my co-host Vivi. And for today's episode, we are going to discuss the book The Everything Store by Brad Stone. So The Everything Store, you might be able to guess, is a book about Amazon, the store that sells practically everything, and its founder, Jeff Bezos. So let's go right into it. Reading the book, one lesson that I learned that I found very impactful was Jeff Bezos' hiring strategy. So when they first started off and Amazon was pretty small, it was in a garage in a home in Seattle. It was pretty tough to get top talent. I mean, it's going to be hard to pull someone from, say, like Microsoft to come work in a garage. But they hired to the best of their abilities. But what I found very impactful was that each year they would raise their hiring bar, as they would call it. Jeff Bezos would demand that every time they hire a new employee, they would have to be better than the last one. So employee 3 would be better than employee 2, and employee number 500 would have to be better than employee 499. Amazon is constantly improving itself and constantly raising the bar. They even had certain people at Amazon called bar raisers, and their job was to veto any hirings the hiring managers made if they didn't believe the candidate was better than people that were previously hired. So how can we use that? Well, I think it just goes to show we need to keep raising our standard. What was good 2 years ago for us isn't still good today. We need to keep improving. So say, for example, I don't know, maybe my typing speed, if I want to get really good at typing, is 50 words a minute. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, I don't know. But maybe for me, that's good. 2 years from now, if that's still my speed, that means I haven't improved in 2 years. So I think we really need to keep this lesson in mind, being a bar raiser, constantly raising the bar and making the standards more and more difficult to meet as we improve ourselves each and every day.
Another point I found interesting, Ryan, in this book was Jeff Bezos' regret minimization framework. And it kind of is what it sounds like. It's his ability to minimize how much he regrets not taking action on stuff. At the time when Jeff Bezos started Amazon, he was actually working a really fantastic job at Wall Street. He was a very successful, I believe, broker and worked for a financial company, and he was making really, really good money at the time. And when he told his parents that he was going to go off and try this new internet company, they were kind of crazy. They're like, well, you've already make a lot of good money. You're young. Why would you risk that to go make nothing? But this is the way Jeff thought about it. He thought about in the thick of things, it's kind of easy to confuse by the small stuff. He says, like the money that you could be making, or the bonus that he walked away from on Wall Street right in the middle of the year at the worst possible time, right before the, dot-com burst, kind of. But he said at the end of the day, when you're 80 years old, you're not going to remember that. You're not going to remember the bonus you didn't make or the little bit of money you didn't make. You're going to remember the chances that you didn't take. And it's just a really good way to remind you that sometimes it's good to take those bigger chances if you feel the necessity to. And he said when he thought about it that way, it was an incredibly easy decision. So that was the first thing. Think about the regret minimization framework. Do you actually want to do it, or is it really important to you? And if so, maybe you should go for it. Secondly, the reason I think Amazon passed through a lot of these crazy obstacles that they have over the years is because of Jeff Bezos' focus on customers and not competitors. Year in, year out, he's always asked during interviews who he should be worried about, which competitors are going to come into place. Hell, he even does a lot of crazy things like give products for almost the bare costs of actually making the product. But he does it not to beat the competitors. He does it for the customers. Jeff Bezos typically usually says, look, you should be terrified every single morning. He said to his employees, but don't be worried about your competitors. He said, worry about your customers and stay focused on how much you influence your customers and how good you're making their experience. This is another really good point for, I think, any business. And then one of the last points that I found super, super interesting in this book was when Jeff and his family were in a car ride. I think maybe he was 13 or 14 years old. He was pretty young. And they were going in a car with his grandparents, I think, for a road trip. And Jeff Bezos' grandmother was a smoker. And in the back seat of the car, Jeff was really good at math. So he started doing some statistics on mortality rates because he found some public statistics that how many years you lose from smoking X amount of cigarettes. And so at one point he did the math in his head and he started yelling like that his grandmother's smoking habit would take 9 years off her life. And then when he poked his head into the front seat to say this, she burst into tears. But then Jeff Bezos' grandpa pulled the car over and walked him outside. And he looked at him and he said, Jeff, it's harder to be kind than it is to be clever. And Jeff constantly talks about this point in terms of him learning the ability to be kind in life and not to always be the most clever person, because it's really, really easy sometimes to be clever when you have more information, but it's harder to be kind to the most people.
I like your point on Jeff Bezos' emphasis to focus on the customer and not the competitor. When I first learned about Amazon and even reading this book, I was kind of perplexed, to be honest, that Amazon was charging such low prices. But then you learn more about Jeff Bezos and his ideologies, like it makes sense. They're cutting prices because they're focusing on the customer. They want what's best for the customer, and in turn, that's going to be what's best for Amazon in the future. So kind of piggybacking off that, Jeff Bezos met with a bunch of other low-cost companies. Two that come to mind right now are Walmart and Costco. So I believe he met with the CEO for both. And he learned lessons from his competitors. So what did he learn? Well, he went to Costco and he's talking with the CEO. I believe they're thinking about doing either a merger or some sort of joint venture and just working together. But the Costco CEO said that their focus was customer loyalty. And by that, they meant consistency. Customers knew that if they went to Costco, they would be able to find really cheap stuff and lots of it. They would have bulk, there'd be a lot of selection, and it would be really cheap. And that was Costco's focus. They knew if customers can come day in and day out, and if they expected that and they would actually get that, then Costco would have customer loyalty from their customers and they would be successful, because the more customer loyalty they would have eventually more customers, they would have more purchases, and the cycle will feed into itself. So what Jeff Bezos did from this is, well, he learned. He took Costco's idea and he applied it to Amazon, because what does Amazon do now? They have really, really cheap stuff. I believe at the time, maybe like a couple weeks before he talked to the Costco CEO, Amazon had just decided to increase the prices on their books because Amazon wasn't profitable at this time. Quarter after quarter, year after year, they were having losses. They weren't generating a profit, and it was making headlines in the news because all the investors and newspapers were like, this company is not making money. They need to do something. They need to raise prices. And so after a long time, Amazon finally agreed, and they decided to raise prices on certain books. 2 weeks later, Jeff Bezos talks to the Costco CEO. He goes through their ideology and how cheap stuff at Costco drives their customer loyalty. And then the next day, Amazon lowered their prices back to how it originally was. What was Jeff Bezos doing? He was learning from others. Another example was he was talking to the Walmart CEO, and they were talking about marketing budgets. And so Walmart says its marketing strategy is actually their pricing strategy. What does that mean? It means their marketing strategy is everyday low prices. I mean, you see the Walmart's reputation, once again, really low prices. So how would Walmart use its marketing budget? It would use its marketing budget to reduce its prices. It just wouldn't advertise. And the savings that it would have from not advertising, it would use to decrease its prices. And why would they do that? Well, the cheaper its prices were, the more people would talk about Walmart, and then the more people would come to Walmart and start buying things. That was their marketing. It wasn't the traditional marketing in the sense where you're buying advertisements. It's marketing in that they wouldn't advertise, and by not having advertising expenses, they could decrease their costs. So anyways, Jeff Bezos was talking with this to the CEO. He heard Walmart's idea, and what did he start doing? They cut all their commercials. I think first they cut like 90% of them, and they were only running them in, say, like Portland, and I believe maybe Seattle. They tested it. They found that the commercials actually didn't drive that many more customers, and they cut all their commercials. And then, so you didn't see a commercial from Walmart or from Amazon for the longest time, I believe, until they released their Kindle, and which kind of makes sense because it's a totally new product. But once again, Jeff Bezos took something from Walmart and implemented it into his own company, Amazon. So what does this mean? I think it just shows the importance of learning from others. Jeff Bezos, probably one of the smartest guys in the world, super driven, but still humble enough to go to his competitors, have a discussion, and learn and take their best ideas to further improve himself. And I think that's something we can all do too. We can never stop learning. We can go to other people who are maybe more successful in certain areas we want to get better at, see how they do it, and then take the best ideas from them to further better ourselves. That wraps up today's discussion on The Everything Store by Brad Stone. Thanks for listening, guys, and have a great day.